The fork hit the plate with a sound that should have been nothing, just metal on porcelain, but in that moment, it rang out like a gunshot. Everyone at the table froze. My stepmother, Corinne, sat at the head wearing that smile she'd perfected over the years, the one that looked warm until you saw her eyes. Cold. Calculating. My father sat beside her, glasses slipping down his nose, saying nothing. He hadn't said much of anything since the second stroke. Calder, Corinne said, her voice smooth as glass. My son will be moving in after graduation. You'll clear your room by Sunday. She paused, letting the words settle like sediment. Or you'll clear out entirely. Surely you understand. I set my fork down carefully. My hands didn't shake, but something inside me did. That room was mine before it was anyone's. Her smile widened. Not in writing. 3 words. That's all it took to erase 28 years of my life in that house. Not in writing. As if the decade I spent repainting those walls at 12 meant nothing. As if moving back to manage my father's medication schedules, balance his estate files, repair the gate he carved his initials into, as if none of that counted because I never thought to get a receipt for love. Have you ever been pushed out of a place you helped build, told you don't belong in rooms you gave your sweat to? Drop it in the comments, because I need to know I wasn't alone in this. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. Across from me, her son, Tyler, smirked into his water glass. He was 23, fresh out of college with a marketing degree, and no idea what real work looked like. He'd visited the house maybe 5 times in 3 years. But somehow, he deserved my room, my space. The place where my real mother, Lucia, used to read me bedtime stories before she died when I was 8. You're a guest here, Calder, Corinne continued, dabbing her lips with a napkin. You always have been. It's time you understood that. Guest. The words stuck in my throat like a bone. I'd lived in that house longer than she had. I'd held my father's hand through physical therapy. I'd cleaned wounds, changed sheets, sat up at 3 in the morning when the nightmares came, and he forgot where he was. But I was the guest. My father finally spoke, his voice thin and shaky. Corinne, maybe we should. Vernon. She didn't even look at him. We discussed this. And just like that, he went quiet again. That's what she did. She didn't yell. She didn't have to. She simply decided things, and the world bent around her decisions like light around a black hole. I stood up from the table. My chair scraped against the hardwood, the floor I'd refinished 2 summers ago, when the boards started rotting through. I need some air. Take your time, Corinne said sweetly. But the decision stands. Sunday, Calder. Sunday or never. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back. The night air hit my face, cool and sharp. My heart hammered in my chest, not from anger, not yet, but from something deeper. Fear. The fear of becoming invisible. Of being erased from your own story while everyone watches and does nothing. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor of my room, back against a bed frame I'd built with my father when I was 16. The house creaked and settled around me like old bones. I stared at the wall I'd painted blue, because my mother said it reminded her of the sky back in her hometown. I touched the windowsill where I'd carved my initials behind the curtain when I was 10, thinking no one would ever find them. None of it mattered. Not in writing. That's when I heard her voice drifting up through the vents, Corinne talking to someone on the phone, probably her sister. He's temporary, she said, laughing softly. Once Vernon's gone, this house will be settled properly. As it should have been from the start. Properly. As if I was the mistake. As if my existence here was some clerical error that needed correcting. I realized something in that moment, sitting in the dark with my mother's memory and my father's silence pressing down on me. People like Corinne don't steal with guns or threats. They steal with paperwork. With signatures and dates and legal phrases that sound like reason but feel like robbery. They erase you with language, not violence. But here's what she didn't know. Here's what she couldn't have known. 2 days later, while grabbing towels from the linen closet, I found it. An envelope. Yellowed. Creased. wedged behind folded quilts like a secret someone meant to keep. It was addressed to me in handwriting I'd know anywhere, my father's, back when his hands were steady. I locked myself in the bathroom and opened it with shaking fingers. The letter was short, direct, and it changed everything. If you're reading this, I fear what I trusted may have been tampered with. Look for the first draft, not the final. The truth is where I left it, under dust, waiting. She thought she'd won. She thought Sunday would come and I'd pack my bags like a good little guest and disappear into whatever life people like me are supposed to live. Quiet, grateful, gone. But she had no idea what I'd just found. I was 12 years old the first time my father handed me a paintbrush. Not the cheap kind from the dollar store, but a real one. Would handle worn smooth from years of use, bristles still soft despite the dried paint crusted near the ferrule. We stood in what would become my room, walls bare and smelling of fresh plaster. A room becomes yours when you leave your mark, he said, dipping his brush into robin's egg blue. My mother had picked the color. She said it reminded her of open skies back in her hometown, before she met my father, before I was born, before cancer decided she didn't get to see me grow up. I painted that room with him. Every corner, every baseboard. We got more paint on ourselves than the walls, and my father laughed, really laughed, in a way I'd never hear again after she died 2 years later. I was 14 when we buried her, 16 when the house started feeling too quiet, 24 when I left for a job 3 states away, thinking distance would dull the ache. I was 26 when he called and told me about the stroke, 27 when Corinne appeared at his bedside in the hospital, introducing herself as his companion from the community center. 28 when they got married in a courthouse ceremony I wasn't invited to. She said they wanted something small, intimate, just the two of them and her son as witness. I moved back 3 months later when the second stroke hit. Someone had to manage his medications, the blood thinners, the anti-seizure pills, the ones that kept his heart beating steady through the night. Someone had to balance the estate files scattered across his desk like fallen leaves. Someone had to fix the gate where his initials were carved, the one rotting off its hinges while Corinne redecorated the living room. That someone was me. Always me. The invisible sun doing invisible work. Corinne changed things slowly at first. A new couch here. Different curtains there. Then came the photos, my mother's pictures disappearing from the mantel one by one, replaced with frames holding Corinne's family. Her parents. Her son at graduation. Her sister's wedding. It was like watching someone erase history with a smile, one piece at a time. We need to move forward, not backward, she told me once when I asked about my mother's portrait. Your father agrees. My father said nothing. He'd stopped saying much of anything by then. The strokes had taken his words and left behind silence and confusion. Sometimes he'd look at me like he knew something was wrong but couldn't quite remember what. Other times he'd call me by my mother's name and cry because he thought she'd left him again. I never asked for rent. Never asked for thanks. I just showed up every day and did what needed doing. Fixed the leaking shower. Replaced the busted AC unit. Repainted the porch when the wood started peeling. My father would watch from his chair sometimes, eyes distant, and I'd wonder if he remembered teaching me how to hold a hammer, how to measure twice and cut once, how to build things that last. That night after dinner, after Corinne's ultimatum, I couldn't stop thinking about those words. Not in writing. As if love could be measured in documents. As if devotion needed a notary stamp to count. I sat on my bedroom floor until 3 a.m, listening to the house settle around me. Old houses talk if you know how to listen. They creak in the joints, whisper through the vents. This house was telling me something, but I couldn't quite hear it yet. Then I heard her voice. Corinne on the phone downstairs, probably thinking everyone was asleep. Her words floated up through the heating vent like poison gas. He's a guest, nothing more, she said, laughing that crystalline laugh she used at church functions. Once Vernon's gone, this house will be settled properly. Tyler deserves this space. He's family. Real family. Real family. The phrase hit different at 3 a.m. with your back against a bed frame you built with your dying father. Real family doesn't mean biology. It doesn't mean paperwork. It means showing up. It means midnight medication schedules and physical therapy appointments and holding someone's hand when they forget who they are. But to her, I was just a problem waiting to be solved. A loose end to be tied off and forgotten. I realized something in that moment. People like Corinne don't steal with violence. They don't need to. They steal with language, with clauses and signatures, with the weight of official documents that sound like truth but feel like lies. They weaponize paperwork the way generals weaponize artillery, and by the time you realize you're under attack, half your life is already gone. I wasn't just losing a room. I was being erased from the story entirely, written out like a typo, corrected like a mistake. That's when I decided I wouldn't confront her. Confrontation was her arena. She'd trained for it, perfected it, turned it into performance art. No, I'd do something she'd never expect from someone she considered beneath her notice. I would document everything. Every moment. Every mark I'd left on this house. Every proof that I wasn't temporary. I was foundational. But I didn't know yet how deep this went. Didn't know what I'd find hidden in the places she'd never thought to look. Didn't know my father had left me more than memories. He'd left me breadcrumbs. And the first one was waiting in a linen closet behind folded quilts, written in his shaking hand, addressed to me like a message in a bottle thrown from a sinking ship. The envelope felt fragile in my hands, like it might crumble if I breathed too hard. I'd found it that morning while grabbing fresh towels from my father's bathroom, just a yellowed corner poking out from behind Corinne's perfectly folded quilts. She organized everything like a museum display. Everything except the truth. I locked the bathroom door and sat on the edge of the tub. My name on the front, written in my father's handwriting. But not recent handwriting. This was from before the strokes, before the tremors, before his hands forgot how to grip a pen steady. This was my father when he still knew exactly what he was doing. The paper inside was thin, almost translucent. I unfolded it carefully and started reading. Calder, if you're reading this, I fear what I trusted may have been tampered with. I thought I was being careful. I thought putting things in order would protect you. But lately I've noticed changes. Small things. Documents moved. Files reorganized. Questions asked about properties and accounts I never discussed with anyone but your mother. My throat tightened. He knew. Somehow, even through the fog of medication and failing memory, he'd known something wasn't right. Look for the first draft, not the final, the letter continued. What I intended and what was filed may not match. I've hidden the originals where she won't think to look. Under the tool bench in the shed. The blue tin box behind the paint cans. Everything that matters is there. Every plan I made when your mother was alive. Every promise I intended to keep. The letter ended with a single line that made my hands shake. Don't let them erase us, son. Don't let them pretend we never existed. I read it 3 times. Then a 4th. Each time, the words felt heavier, more real, more dangerous. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't confusion from medication. This was a man who saw the future and tried to leave me a map back to the truth. I pressed the letter against my chest and closed my eyes. You left breadcrumbs, didn't you? I whispered to the empty bathroom. You knew she'd try this. You knew I'd need proof. Outside the door, I heard footsteps. Corinne's heels clicking on hardwood. She knocked once, sharp and impatient. Calder? Are you all right in there? I folded the letter quickly and shoved it in my pocket.
Fine.
Just a minute. Well, hurry up. I need to discuss the moving arrangements with you. Tyler arrives Friday, not Sunday. We've moved up the timeline. Friday. That gave me 3 days instead of 6. She was tightening the noose, probably sensing I wasn't rolling over the way she'd expected. Got it, I called out, keeping my voice neutral. Be right there. Her footsteps retreated down the hall. I waited until I couldn't hear them anymore, then pulled the letter back out and read the most important line again. The blue tin box behind the paint cans.
The shed.
I hadn't been in there since I moved back. It was my father's domain, his workshop, the place he'd go to think and build and escape. Corinne never went near it. Said it was dusty and smelled like motor oil. which meant it was probably the safest place in the world to hide something you didn't want found. I spent the rest of that day acting normal. Helped my father with lunch. Nodded along when Corinne explained her vision for converting my room into a home office for Tyler. Smiled when she showed me paint samples, asking which shade of gray looked more professional. I picked one at random. Didn't matter. None of it mattered anymore. That night, after everyone went to bed, I slipped out the back door. The shed sat at the edge of the property, half hidden by overgrown bushes my father used to trim every spring. The door creaked when I opened it, loud enough to make me freeze and listen for house lights turning on. Nothing. Just crickets and distant traffic. Inside, everything looked exactly how I remembered. Tools hanging on pegboards. Coffee cans full of screws and nails sorted by size. My father's workbench covered in sawdust that hadn't been disturbed in months. And there, in the back corner behind a stack of paint cans, was a blue tin box. My hands trembled as I pulled it out. It was heavier than expected, metal scratched and dented from years of use. I sat on the floor of the shed with a flashlight and opened it. Papers. So many papers. Deeds. Transfer documents. Handwritten notes in my mother's looping script. Photographs of the house from when they first bought it, back when I wasn't even born yet. And there, on top of everything else, was a document dated 1997. A will. And signed but dated. Witnessed by neighbors who'd since moved away. I read it twice under the narrow beam of my flashlight. The language was clear. Simple. In the event of incapacity or death, primary inheritance would go to Calder Michael Reyes, son and heir. The house. The property. Everything my parents had built together. This wasn't the will currently on file. I'd seen that one, the one filed 2 years ago, after my father married Corinne. The one that made everything joint property and named her as executor. But this one, this original draft, told a different story. My father's true intentions before someone convinced him to change them. I heard something outside. A rustling. Footsteps maybe. I killed the flashlight and held my breath. Through the gap in the shed door, I saw a shadow move past. Someone was out here. Watching. Waiting. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Finally, the shadow moved away toward the house. I waited another 10 minutes before carefully packing everything back into the tin box and hiding it under my jacket. Getting back inside without being seen felt like defusing a bomb. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like an alarm. But I made it to my room and shoved the box under my bed behind old shoe boxes and winter clothes. I lay there in the dark, heart hammering, mind racing. I had evidence. Real evidence. Proof that my father wanted me to inherit this house, this life, this legacy. But evidence alone wouldn't save me. I needed someone who understood how to use it. Someone who spoke the language Corinne used to erase people. I needed a lawyer. But lawyers cost money I didn't have. What I needed was someone who owed me. Someone who understood what it felt like to be backed into a corner with no way out. And then I remembered. Turin Holt. 5 years ago, I'd done free carpentry work on his aunt's porch where he was drowning in medical debt. We'd never called it a debt, but he'd told me once, if you ever need anything, anything at all, you call me. I mean it. I pulled out my phone and stared at his contact. It was 2 a.m, but this couldn't wait. Friday was coming. Tyler was coming. And I was running out of time to prove I wasn't just a guest in my own life. I texted him. Remember what you said about owing me? I need help. Legal help. It's urgent. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, come to my place tomorrow night. Bring everything. I couldn't outscream her. Couldn't outcharm her. Couldn't fight her with emotions or appeals to decency. But maybe, just maybe, I could outfile her. Turin lived on the east side, in a worn-down apartment building where the elevator stalled and walls whispered neighbors' arguments. I'd been here years ago, helping him move furniture after his aunt passed, back when he was buried under medical debt, working double shifts as a legal clerk. Now he was a paralegal. Not a lawyer, but close enough to know the machinery of law, the difference between noise and evidence. I arrived at 7, the blue tin box in a grocery bag. He opened the door immediately. Older, leaner, gray creeping in, but eyes as sharp as ever. "You look like hell," he said. "Feel worse," I muttered. The kitchen table was stripped bare except for a legal pad and 2 pens. We sat. I placed the box down. "Tell me everything," he said. And I did. The dinner ultimatum. The hidden letter. The original will. Curran's plans timed to my father's death. Every fear, every suspicion, poured out raw. He listened, writing fast but steady. When I finished, he asked, "Do you have timestamps?" Proof. I had memories. He needed metadata. "We're building a legacy audit," he said. "Not feelings. Facts. Paper that proves you're not temporary, you're permanent." "How long?" I asked. He leaned in. "Do you trust me?" I nodded. "Then stop fighting her emotions. Fight her filings. People like her count on no one reading the fine print." He opened the tin box, photographing each document. The draft will, letters between my parents, the 1997 deed naming me contingent heir. "This is strong," he said, "but we need more. Receipts. Photos. Medical records. Anything tying you to that house over time." I thought of the old computer. My father kept photos, years of them. Repairs. Builds. Me. Turin smiled. "Then that's where we start. Can you get to it without her knowing?" I nodded. "Wednesday. She takes Tyler shopping. Hours gone." He tapped his pen. "Copy everything. Every brick of history. We're building a fortress." We worked until midnight. He logged every page into a spreadsheet, cataloging my past like evidence from a crime scene. "What about the current will?" I asked. "We'll pull it," he said. "If there's a mismatch, that's fuel." He paused. "Once we file, she'll fight. Are you ready?" I thought of my mother's portrait missing. My father's silence. Curran's eyes. "I'm ready." "Good," he said. "Start tomorrow." And called her. "Don't let her see you sweat. Let her believe she's already won." People make their biggest mistakes when they feel invincible. I left his apartment not with hope, but with something heavier: direction. Restoration. The next morning, routine resumed. Eggs for my father. Corinne in gym clothes, jangling keys. "Taking Tyler to get his new office furniture," she said. "We'll be gone all day." I kept my voice flat. "Sounds good." She smiled, victorious. "Movers are coming Friday. I trust you'll be packed." "Of course," I said. I waited until the car vanished, counted to 100, then went to the office. The old computer groaned awake. Folders by year. I slid Trin's flash drive in and began copying. There I was, age 8 helping build the fence. 16 holding the bed frame. 24, reshingle work. Every photo timestamped. Proof I wasn't passing through, I was crafting. I found documents, an original will draft, last edited by my mother. Emails with attorneys. Everything before Corinne existed. Then something new. A folder. Medical records, Calder. I opened it. Scanned files listing me as primary caregiver. Medical proxy. Emergency contact. Not Corinne. Me. Hands shaking, I copied it 3 times. This wasn't just inheritance. This was legal authority. My father's care. Guardianship. Control. A car door slammed. Panic surged. Had she forgotten something? I ripped the drive out, closed programs, shut it down. But it was only the mailman. I exhaled, replaced the chair exactly, left the room untouched. That night, I brought everything to Trin. He combed through it, expression sharpening. "This changes everything. We're not just defending space, we're claiming authority." I asked, "What now?" He smiled, a strategist's smile. "We file an estate freeze. Emergency injunction. No transfers. No sales. No changes. She won't be able to touch a fork without permission." "When?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning. By the time she understands it, the judge will already have signed." In 3 days, she believed I'd be gone, erased, evicted, irrelevant. Instead, I'd be ink on every legal line. The quiet ghost she never saw building walls behind her. Friday morning was coming, but I wouldn't be packing. I'd be watching her face when she realized everything she thought she owned was already locked. And she was the one without keys. The courthouse opened at 8 a.m. Trin and I were there at 7:50, standing outside with a folder of documents thick enough to stop a bullet. Early morning light filtered through the trees, making everything look cold and official. Exactly the right atmosphere for what we were about to do. Last chance to back out, Trin said quietly. Once we file this, there's no pretending anymore. She'll know you're fighting. Good, I said. I want her to know. We walked in together. The clerk's office smelled like old paper and fluorescent lights. Trin handed over our petition to a tired-looking woman behind bulletproof glass. She barely glanced at it before stamping it with a red-filed mark and sliding back a receipt. Judge Pacheco will review emergency petitions this afternoon, she said in a voice that suggested she'd said the same thing 10,000 times. You'll receive notice by end of business day. That was it. No dramatic music. No gavel strike. Just paperwork sliding across a counter and a receipt with a case number. But I felt it, a shift in gravity. Something irreversible had just happened. Now we wait, Trin said as we walked back to his car. And you act normal. Go home. Do your usual routine. Don't give her any reason to suspect. Acting normal felt impossible, but I tried. I made my father lunch, changed his sheets, sat with him while he watched the news, and forgot what we were watching halfway through. He looked at me once with sudden clarity and said, "You're a good son, Calder. Your mother would be proud." It broke something in me, but I just smiled and squeezed his hand. Thanks, Dad. Corinne came home around 3, arms loaded with shopping bags. Tyler followed behind her, talking on his phone, not helping. She was in high spirits, practically glowing. Found the perfect desk, she announced to no one in particular. Glass top, very modern. It'll look amazing once that room is cleared out. She glanced at me. Speaking of which, how's the packing coming? Getting there. I lied. Good. The movers confirmed for tomorrow morning. 8 sharp. I'll write you a check for, let's say $200? Help you get started wherever you land. $200. For 28 years. For every nail I hammered, and every wall I painted, and every night I sat up with my father when he couldn't remember his own name. That's generous, I said flatly. She either didn't catch the sarcasm or didn't care. Well, we're not heartless. You've been helpful during a difficult time. We appreciate that. Helpful. Like I was hired staff. Like I'd been contracted for services rendered. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from Trin. It's done. Freeze order signed. Effective immediately. I excused myself and went to my room, hands shaking with something between terror and triumph. It was real. The order was real. As of this moment, Corinne couldn't sell the house, couldn't transfer utilities, couldn't change locks or file new deeds or do anything without court permission. She was frozen in place, and she didn't even know it yet. I wondered how long it would take for her to find out. Hours? Days? Part of me wanted to be there when it happened, to see her face when she realized her careful plans had hit a wall. But another part, the smarter part, knew to stay quiet. Let her discover it on her own. Let her feel the shock without me anywhere near to blame in person. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining different scenarios. Would she come screaming into my room? Would she call her lawyer first? Would she try to have me arrested for something, anything, just to regain control? The answer came at 9:30 the next morning. I was helping my father with breakfast when I heard her voice from the office. Not a scream, worse. A cold, controlled fury that made the hair on my neck stand up. What do you mean frozen? By whose authority? Silence while someone on the phone explained. Then, Calder? Who the hell is Calder Reyes in legal terms? He's nobody. He has no standing. No, I don't care what the petition says. This is absurd. I'm his wife. I'm the executor. How can some judge just? Her voice rose now, losing that control. Well, get it overturned. Today. I have movers coming. I have contractors scheduled. I have a son who needs to. She must have been cut off because she went silent again. I could picture her face.
Red. Tight.
The mask finally cracking. Fine, she spat. Send me everything. Every document. Every filing. I want to know exactly what he thinks he's doing. Footsteps.
Fast.
Angry. Coming toward the kitchen. I didn't move. Just kept buttering my father's toast, acting like I hadn't heard a thing. She appeared in the doorway. Hair perfect. Outfit perfect. But her eyes were pure rage barely contained behind expensive makeup. Calder, she said, voice like a wire pulled taut. What have you done? I looked up slowly. Met her eyes. Protected the house. Protected? You filed some kind of emergency order? Accused me of what exactly? Manipulation? Undue influence? Do you have any idea what you've just started? Yeah, I said calmly. I do. You can't prove anything. You have nothing. No documentation. No evidence. No leg to stand on. This is harassment, and my lawyer will have it dismissed by Monday. I took a bite of toast. Chewed slowly. Swallowed. Maybe. She stared at me like I was something she'd found on her shoe. This changes nothing. You're still leaving.
Today.
I don't care what some judge thinks they've ordered. This is my house, and you're not welcome in it. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone and reading from Trin's text, according to the emergency estate freeze order filed under case number 24, CV 8847, no changes to household occupancy or asset distribution can occur until a full hearing is conducted. That includes eviction of listed residents. I looked up at her. I'm listed. You can't make me leave. For the first time since I'd met her, Corinne had no words. She just stood there, breathing hard, hands clenched into fists at her sides. You'll regret this, she finally whispered. Whatever you think you're doing, whatever games you think you're playing, you'll regret it. Maybe, I said again. But not today. She turned and walked away. I heard her office door slam. Heard her voice on the phone again, sharp and demanding, making calls to lawyers and judges and whoever she thought could undo what I'd just done. My father looked up from his breakfast, confused. Is everything all right? Yeah, Dad, I said, squeezing his shoulder gently. Everything's going to be fine. But I knew better. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. Because the real battle wasn't going to happen in courtrooms or legal filings. It was going to happen where Corinne felt most powerful, in public, in front of witnesses, in the court of social opinion where she'd spent years building her reputation. And she was about to do something that would destroy that reputation forever. She just didn't know it yet. 3 days later, the invitation arrived. Thick cardstock. Elegant script. Join us for a celebration brunch as we honor new beginnings and family futures. She was throwing a party, right in the middle of a legal battle, right while the estate was frozen. She was going to stand in front of neighbors and friends and attorneys and announce her victory like it was already won.
Trin called that night.
Did you get the invitation? Yeah.
Good.
Because we're going. And we're bringing receipts. The realtors began arriving on Tuesday, 3 in 2 days, roaming the halls with tablets while Corinne spoke of renovations and new beginnings. Each time they neared my door, she announced, "This room will be cleared soon. My son's moving in. Fresh start." I stayed silent, invisible, her certainty mistaking quiet for surrender. She pretended the legal freeze was temporary, a glitch she'd soon erase. I watched her guiding a blonde realtor through the kitchen, dismissing the court order as a minor complication, claiming I was confused and temporary. Temporary. Though I had rebuilt the porch, nursed my father through seizures, lived in memories she'd never touch. The realtor hesitated but moved on. People always did around Corinne's confidence. Later, she found me helping my father with therapy, arms crossed, eyes cold. Movers come next week. Your stunt will be dismissed. Judges hate emotional tantrums. I kept counting reps with my father, refusing her bait. She warned I'd pay legal fees too. My father asked why she was angry. Everything's fine. I lied. But the tension was poisonous, waiting for ignition. The spark arrived as an embossed invitation. Asterisk, celebration brunch, new beginnings and family futures. Asterisk, she wasn't just claiming victory, she was parading it. I sent a photo to Trin. He called instantly. She's cornered. Predators get louder when trapped. We'll go and bring everything. Evidence will be the party favor. Sunday came bright and deceptively peaceful. Guests filled the house, neighbors, family associates, even the old attorney who'd probated my mother's will. Corinne moved among them like royalty, tables dressed in white linens, mimosas flowing. Tyler hovered, bored, and scrolling his phone. I waited at the back. Trin arrived at 11:30 with a leather folio. He didn't interrupt her speech about modernizing the estate. He simply circulated, handing out slim folders, proof of everything. The will naming me heir, decades of photos repairing this home, medical documents listing me as primary caregiver. Faces shifted, confusion, realization, betrayal. Mr. Chun, a neighbor, raised his voice. Corinne, these papers show Calder was heir since 1997. Silence spread. Corinne insisted they were irrelevant, updated upon marriage. But another guest noted the court order. Someone else questioned her absence from medical records. The mask slipped. This is inappropriate. This is my home, she snapped. The family attorney stepped forward. Was Vernon incapacitated during changes? If not, why hide original documents? Corinne flushed. How dare you? But the crowd no longer followed. They wanted answers. I spoke at last. I'm not temporary. I am foundational. Every repair, every decision for my father. That was me. She stared, stunned, then dragged Tyler inside, ordering everyone to leave. But guests lingered, murmuring apologies to me. Mr. Chen said quietly, "Your mother would be proud." When the patio cleared, Corinne locked herself in the master bedroom, voice frantic behind the door. Tyler scrolled unmoved. Trin gathered the remaining folders. That went well, he said. That went nuclear, I replied. Same thing sometimes. 3 days later, her lawyer called. Settlement. She would withdraw all estate claims, leave the house, take only what she came with. No contest, no investigation, no public record of her manipulation. Do we take it? I asked. Do you want justice or revenge? Trin asked. Justice. Then take it. You already won what matters. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was making breakfast. Trin's voice on the other end of the line, calm and measured, the way doctors sound when they're delivering news they've practiced saying. Her lawyer called. They want to settle. I stopped mid-pour, coffee streaming past the cup and onto the counter.
Settle.
Full withdrawal from all estate claims. She leaves the house, takes nothing but what she brought into the marriage, contests nothing in probate. In exchange, we drop the undue influence investigation. No public record. She walks away quietly. The coffee pooled around my hand. I didn't feel it. What do you think? I think she's cornered, and she knows it. That brunch destroyed her credibility.
People talk.
Word spreads. She can either fight this publicly and lose everything including her reputation, or she can cut her losses and preserve some dignity. How long do I have to decide? They want an answer by Friday. I hung up and stood there watching coffee drip onto the floor, wondering why victory felt so heavy. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? The house secured. My father protected. Corinne gone. So why did I feel like I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't take back? My father shuffled into the kitchen in his slippers, hair sticking up at odd angles. Morning, Calder. Morning, Dad. He looked at the coffee spill and frowned. Everything okay?
Yeah.
Just clumsy. He helped me clean it up with shaking hands that forgot how to grip the paper towels properly. I watched him struggle and remembered him teaching me to tie my shoes, to ride a bike, to use a hammer without hitting my thumb. When did he get so small? When did I become the one holding everything together? Dad, I said quietly, do you remember when Mom died? What you told me at the funeral? He paused, eyes distant, searching through fog. I told you we protect what we love. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, I finished. He smiled.
Yeah, especially then.
That afternoon, I called turn back. Accept the settlement. I'm not fighting for revenge. I'm fighting for him. The paperwork moved quickly after that. Lawyers and signatures and notarized documents that made it all real and binding. Corinne would vacate by the end of the month. Tyler too. Everything she'd brought would leave with her. Everything else stayed. I didn't see her much during those final weeks. She spent most of her time locked in the master bedroom, packing in silence. No more dinner table pronouncements. No more tours with realtors. No more pretending she'd won. Just the quiet sound of someone erasing themselves from a story they'd tried to steal. On her last day, I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. She stood in the doorway, dressed like she was going somewhere important. Hair perfect, makeup perfect, but her eyes looked tired in a way no amount of concealer could fix. I didn't come to apologize, she said.
Good.
I didn't expect you to. Vernon made his choices. I simply honored them. You rewrote them. She flinched, but didn't deny it. You think you've won something here. You think keeping this house means you matter. But this place is just wood and nails, Calder. It doesn't love you back. No, I agreed. But it remembers. Every mark I left. Every repair. Every moment I spent building instead of taking. It remembers, even if you don't. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker in her expression. Not regret exactly. More like recognition. The acknowledgement of a miscalculation she couldn't undo. I hope it keeps you warm at night, she said finally, then walked away. I listened to her car pull out of the driveway one last time. Heard the engine fade into distance. And then there was just silence. The kind that settles after a storm passes and you're left surveying the damage, wondering what to rebuild first. My father was sitting on the porch when I came out. He looked up, confused. Where's Corinne? She left, Dad. Is she coming back?
No.
He nodded slowly, like he understood but couldn't quite hold on to why. That's probably for the best. We sat together as the sun dropped lower in the sky, painting everything gold and gentle. I thought about all the ways a person can be erased, not with violence, but with paperwork and politeness and the slow rewriting of history. I thought about how close I'd come to disappearing from my own life. But I didn't disappear. I stayed. And in staying, I'd proven something I didn't know needed proving. That legacy isn't about what's written in wills or deeds or legal documents. It's about what you build with your hands, what you protect with your time, what you refuse to let be forgotten. Dad, I said quietly, do you remember teaching me to use a hammer? He smiled. You were terrible at it. I got better. You did. You got real good. We sat there until the stars came out, and for the first time in months, the house felt like it could breathe again. Have you ever fought for something everyone told you to let go of? Ever stood your ground when it would have been easier to walk away? Tell me about it in the comments, because maybe you're the only proof someone needs that quiet strength matters. But the story wasn't over yet, because keeping the house was just the beginning. What came next would define what legacy actually means, not just protecting the past, but honoring it by building something new. And that choice was going to be harder than any legal battle I'd fought. The house felt different after Corinne left. Bigger somehow, like it had been holding its breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale. I spent the first week just walking through rooms, touching walls, remembering who I was before someone tried to convince me I was nobody. I found things she'd hidden. My mother's portrait, shoved behind Christmas decorations in the attic. Photo albums stuffed in the back of a closet, pictures of me and my father building the fence, repainting the porch, all the evidence of my existence that she couldn't quite bring herself to destroy, but couldn't stand to see either. I brought them back down one by one. Hung my mother's portrait back on the mantel where it belonged. Set the photo albums on the coffee table where my father could flip through them during his good days. Slowly, deliberately, I put the house back together the way it was supposed to be, the way it was before someone decided our story needed editing. But late at night, when the house creaked and settled, I'd lie awake thinking about Corinne's last words. This place is just wood and nails. It doesn't love you back.
She was right about that.
The house couldn't love me, couldn't thank me, couldn't validate the fight I'd just won. It was just a structure, walls and floors and a roof that needed constant maintenance. And I was just one person, getting older, taking care of a father whose mind slipped a little further every day. What was I protecting this for? To grow old alone in rooms full of memories? To become the ghost of my own life, haunting a place that only mattered because I refused to let it go? I was spiraling into these thoughts one Thursday night when my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Calderea's? Woman's voice. Young. Uncertain.
Yeah.
Who's this? My name is Sarah Chun. I think you know my grandfather? Mr. Chun from down the street. I sat up.
Sure.
Is he okay?
He's fine.
He told me about what happened with your stepmother. About the party and the documents, and how you fought to keep your family home.
She paused.
I'm calling because I'm starting a community resource center. Legal aid for families dealing with elder care, estate disputes, that kind of thing. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to talk about your experience. Maybe help other people who are going through similar situations. I blinked into the darkness of my room. I'm not a lawyer. I barely knew what I was doing. That's exactly why people need to hear from you. You're proof that regular people can fight back against this kind of manipulation. That documentation matters. That quiet strength wins. Quiet strength. The phrase stuck in my chest. Can I think about it? Of course. But Mr. Reyes, what you did matters. Not just for you. For everyone watching who thought they had to just accept being erased. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. I thought about all the people like me, caregivers, family members, the invisible ones doing the work while others position themselves to take credit and profit. How many of them were losing battles right now because they didn't know they could fight back. The next morning, I called Sarah back. I'll do it. Whatever you need. She came by that weekend with a video camera and a list of questions. We sat on the porch, the one I'd rebuilt, and I told the story. All of it. The dinner ultimatum. The hidden letter. The tin box in the shed. The legal freeze. The public brunch that changed everything. What would you tell someone in a similar situation? She asked. I thought about it. Document everything. Every moment of care. Every repair. Every decision you make. Because memory won't save you, but metadata will. And find someone who understands the system. You can't fight paperwork with emotion. You fight it with better paperwork. And if they feel like giving up, then I tell them what my father told me when I was young. We protect what we love, especially when it's hard. And sometimes the hardest thing is believing you have the right to stay in your own story. The video went up the following week on the community center's website. I didn't watch it, couldn't stand seeing myself on camera, hearing my voice explain trauma like it was a lesson plan. But Sarah called me 3 days later, voice tight with emotion. Calder, we've gotten 47 calls. 47 families dealing with similar situations. Estate manipulation, elder abuse, people being pushed out of homes they helped build. They all saw your video. They all want help. Something shifted in my chest. Not pride exactly. More like purpose-finding direction. Can I help somehow? Beyond just the video. Actually, she said carefully, I was hoping you'd consider joining our advisory board. You understand this from the inside. We need that perspective. Advisory board.
Me.
The guy who'd spent most of his life making himself small so others could feel big. The invisible son who almost got erased entirely. Now someone wanted my perspective. My voice. My story. Yeah, I said. I'm in. Over the next month, I met with families navigating their own versions of my nightmare. An older woman whose son-in-law was trying to claim her house after her daughter died. A man whose brother had forged his mother's signature on new estate documents. A couple whose father's new wife was systematically erasing their family history. I listened to their stories and saw myself in every one. The confusion. The hurt. The terrible weight of loving someone while watching another person weaponize that love against you. And I told them what Trin taught me. Don't fight feelings, fight filings. Document everything. Find your proof. Build your fortress brick by brick. Some of them won. Some of them lost. But all of them fought, and that mattered. Because even when you lose the house or the inheritance or the physical things, you keep something more important, the knowledge that you didn't just accept being erased. You stood up.
You spoke.
You proved you existed. One evening, I came home to find my father on the porch holding one of the old photo albums. He was looking at a picture of us building the north fence, me at 8 years old, him in his prime. I was a good father, wasn't I? He asked quietly. My throat tightened. The best dad. I'm sorry I couldn't protect this place for you. Sorry I let her. He trailed off, lost in fog. Dad, listen to me. I knelt beside his chair. You did protect it. You left me breadcrumbs. The letter, the tin box, all of it. You knew what was happening and you made sure I'd have what I needed to fight back. You protected me even when you couldn't protect yourself. He looked at me with sudden clarity, tears in his eyes. Your mother would be proud of you. I hope so. We sat together as the sun set, and I realized something. The house wasn't the legacy. The stuff wasn't the legacy. The real legacy was this: the knowledge that you fight for the people you love, that you document truth even when it's hard, that you leave breadcrumbs for those coming after you, so they don't have to fight alone. Corinne was wrong. The house didn't love me back, but it held space for love to exist. It held memories and lessons and proof that quiet people matter. That invisible work counts. That being erased only works if you let it. And I didn't let it. But there was still one choice left to make. One decision that would define what all of this actually meant. And it was going to change everything. The settlement was finalized on a quiet Wednesday. Corinne and I signed what ended everything. She kept her money and belongings. I kept the house, my family's legacy. Leaving the lawyer's office felt like winning a war I no longer understood. Turin waited outside. He asked how I felt. I said, tired, empty. The fight was over, but peace hadn't arrived. Driving home through familiar streets, I faced the house I'd nearly lost. It looked unchanged, peeling paint, worn porch, my father's carved initials. Inside, my father slept in his chair, frail, a photo album on his lap. I covered him, wondering how long I had left with him and what came after. That night, Sarah from the community center called. She asked me to speak at an upcoming fundraiser, to share my story. I hesitated. But she reminded me 47 families had reached out after seeing my video. My struggle had given others courage. I walked through each room, touching scars in the wood, dents in doorways, proof of our lives. This house wasn't just something I saved. It was where love had lived. My mother reading to me, my father teaching me to build. They never fought for ownership. They lived for meaning. In the morning, I called Trin. I want the house to matter, I said. Not as a monument, but as a place of service. Together, we formed an idea. Transform it into a support center for caregivers and families fighting unseen legal wars. A sanctuary for those like me. Weeks of paperwork followed. Foundations, nonprofit filings, protections. Neighbors contributed. Sarah gathered volunteers. Mr. Chin donated furniture. During rare clear moments, my father would smile. Your mother would love this. Home is where you make room for people. We opened quietly. Legacy House, elder care advocacy, and support. 3 families came opening day. 12 by month's end. I shared everything I'd learned, how to document, defend, and refuse to be erased. One woman arrived shattered, her stepfather trying to expel her from her childhood home. She felt powerless. I sat with her, gathering evidence, building her case. 2 weeks later she called. She'd won. You saved my life, she said. No, I told her. You did. Through autumn, my father faded. On good days, he watched families arrive. We built something good, he whispered. Then one early November morning, he was gone. Peacefully. Photo album open on his lap, him and my mother building this house from nothing. His final sight, legacy made real. I held his hand until it cooled. No tears, only reverence. We had protected each other. He left breadcrumbs. I followed them home. The funeral was small but full of gratitude. Sarah, Trin, neighbors, families we helped. They shared stories of his quiet kindness. After, I stood between my parents' graves. I kept my promise, I said. I didn't let her erase you. And I made this place matter. The wind stirred, and I chose to believe it was approval. Walking back, something lifted. Not joy, grief was too heavy, but purpose. Legacy wasn't preserving the past. It was multiplying it, extending it. Corinne was right about one thing. The house itself couldn't love me, but it could shelter love. It could stand for those who fight unseen battles. That was enough. That was everything. But one choice still remained. What to do after you've fought, protected, and built something bigger than yourself. And that choice would decide everything that came next. 6 months after my father's funeral, I stood on the porch watching volunteers guide another family through their caregiver records. Legacy House had become alive. No longer a place of loss, but a place of return. 43 families had defended their inheritance here. 43 people who once believed they were invisible. Sarah handled operations. I still told my story, taught documentation, fixed what broke. The rooms had transformed. My old bedroom was now an office, my mother's reading room a library, the shed a vault of legal templates. Purpose echoed in every corner. Yet late at night, when the halls were empty, a question haunted me. After proving I belonged here, what did I actually want? The answer arrived as Daniel Park walked through the door, shoulders heavy, eyes exhausted. He cared for the grandmother who raised him, only to face erasure by a new husband with hidden documents. For 3 hours, Weary built his truth. Photos, medical records, financial proof. At the door, he asked, "When you won, did it feel like enough?" I told him winning wasn't enough, but helping others began to be. "Maybe that's the real inheritance," he said. "Knowledge. Proof that you can survive erasure and keep others from it." That night I chose. I called an attorney. I placed the house into an irrevocable trust, permanently a refuge, never mine alone. 1 year after that dinner where Corinne tried to erase me, I signed it away. "You fought so hard to keep it," Trin said. "No," I answered. "I kept the promise, just differently." We gathered to mark the change. Families, volunteers, neighbors, attorneys. I didn't prepare words, but they found me. A year ago, someone tried to write me out of my own story. Not with violence, paperwork, assumptions. But every person here proved she was wrong. I thought legacy meant keeping. It doesn't. It means giving. Taking what nearly broke you and using it to help others survive their breaking. I told them about the letter, the tin box, the freeze, the brunch. Not as a hero, just a man who refused to disappear. They cried, recognition, not pity. When applause came, it felt unfamiliar but right. Not for me, for the validation that quiet work counts. That night, I walked the silent house. Ran my fingers over carved initials, repaired frames. "I didn't fight her," I whispered. "I restored you, and now I give it forward." The house groaned. Would settling. Or maybe approval. 3 months later, Daniel called.
He won.
Kept his grandmother's home. "I'll never forget," he cried. "Don't," I told him. "Pass it forward." 6 months after that, an anonymous donation arrived, enough to hire 2 legal advocates. A note, asterisk from someone who almost disappeared. "Thank you for the map back, asterisk." I sat in my small room that night, thinking of Corinne's last words. Asterisk, "This place doesn't love you back." Asterisk, she was right. The house couldn't love me, but it could hold love. It could offer shelter to people learning they mattered. It could prove that quiet resistance works. That documentation defeats dismissal. That being told you're temporary doesn't make it true. I stayed. Not in walls, in the record. In the fight. In the lineage of those who choose to remain. My parents built a house. I turn it into proof that erased people can return. A fair trade. A worthy fight. So when people ask if winning was worth it, I tell them, winning saved me. But giving it away saved something bigger. And that is the inheritance I choose to leave. Not property, but proof. Proof that you can write yourself back into existence. One folder at a time. One witness at a time. One person brave enough to say, I matter, and mean it. If this story reminded you that your care counts, that your quiet fight deserves record, subscribe. We tell stories of people who refuse erasure, who fight with documents, not rage, who choose quiet justice. Share your moment below, your breadcrumb. Someone may need it to find their way back. This is Legacy House. Proof that invisible people matter. Welcome home. Thank you for witnessing.